Be advised, if the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening. Hello. Welcome once again to another episode of Illuminati.
I was chatting with our guest.
He's so distinguished, our guest this evening.
Yes, he is.
That's probably why Trix has been very
Quite
busy.
handsome as well.
I don't feel it.
I'm sorry when the camera panned into us.
In any case, as you well know,
conversation.
Illuminati with Grip and Trix always deals with art and culture.
That's right.
Our subjects are art and culture. And we feature a variety of guests, from poets to musicians.
Right. And lately we've actually been featuring the artists themselves. We've been featuring writers, poets, dancers, opera singers.
Dancers, opera singers, that's right. And but tonight we have a special guest.
Tonight's a little bit
and
different.
This is about cultural involvement of corporate entities.
Yes.
Heaven knows that artists in the Philippines have a pretty bad deal to begin with. There's not much government support, which is understandable. Which is understandable. No one can blame government for that. We just don't have as much of the wherewithal as other wealthy states to support our arts and culture. So, which I agree with. Actually, I've always felt that artists should stay lean and hungry.
Lean and hungry.
By themselves. But thanks to corporate entities like PMFTC, at least there's a chance for some artists to gain recognition. And so our guest tonight, with all pleasure, may I introduce Mr. Chris Nelson. Good evening, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Chris is the president of PMFTC.
PMFTC being?
Philip Morris, Fortune
Tobacco Corporation.
Incorporated, yes. Which a lot of artists on a national scale are very much aware of and very much appreciative of for their efforts in upholding, in many ways, in various ways, the standards of art in the country. Hello again, Chris.
Hello again.
How many years have you been with us here in Manila?
I've been here now for 9 years, going on 10. It'll be 10 years next May.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from the UK. I'm originally from a place called Southampton in the UK. But I've been coming to the Philippines since 1985. My wife is from the Philippines. So my children, I have 3, so they are Phil Brits. Phil British.
And I understand that one of them is now playing semi-professional football.
He just graduated from the UK, and he came back here, and he's been signed for one of the semi-professional teams. I think it's in the UA League.
Wow,
so hopefully he'll start. Well, we have to play his first game yet, and score his first goals. But yes, hopefully, it's nice.
What position does he play?
He plays left wing.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully I'll see him play. Obviously, the weather's, as we know, it's been very heavy rain, so they haven't had games yet.
It is rainy season after all.
It is, but it's nice for him to be back.
So we might as well take this opportunity to alert the people behind the Ascalps. Here's another left winger that must be joining the team soon, probably the latter part of the season, or no, that's not enough. In time for next year in our Asian tournaments. Especially now that the young husbands seem to be on the carpet. But in any case, getting back to our topic.
So before Chris knows it, his son will probably be venturing into showbiz.
Yeah,
if they follow in the young husband's footsteps.
His son will be a football star and
slash model, slash
would
actor, slash
proceed
TV host.
to build an Italian villa for Chris' retirement.
That would be very nice.
We would hope so.
And I'm sure that when he does have that Italian villa, the walls will be full of Philippine art. I bet you that. I bet you that. Because of primarily PMFTC's decades-long involvement with the Philippine Art Awards. But before we get into that, I'd like to champion or celebrate this wonderful doorstop. This huge book. Look, it even hides me.
It is huge.
It's the tallest and biggest book I've ever seen. It's titled, of course, Abueva, commemorating and celebrating the lifelong work of our national artist for sculpture. Our very first national artist for sculpture. And this was launched, if I'm not mistaken, just a year ago. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, our involvement with this book is actually in a number of areas. First of all, it's written by Sid Reyes.
Sid Reyes.
Sid Reyes has been
Yes.
associated a long time with the Philippine Arts Awards.
Yes.
One of the judges, one of the people there. Abreva was also associated. I knew him actually before, sadly, of course, he had his stroke.
Yes.
Before that. A great person, great character. And we thought a fitting tribute, because he hadn't had a book, that we actually did this book.
Yes.
And it was launched, and you're right, actually, it's a very heavy book. So I don't know if we got in the Guinness Book of Records, but I can assure you it's worth its weight.
Probably
It is,
probably
it
as
is,
heavy as one of his works.
It's an incredible book in so many ways. You know, for one thing, it's the definitive Abueva coffee table book, because it shows all his works from the start to the current. And as we all know, Billy Abueva, a wonderful man and a terrific sculptor.
Very broad range of works.
You have stuff like his utilitarian sculpture, his furniture, and then you have pure abstract art and all his fancies, including the recent ones in UP. Abueva was, of course, well known initially for his wood sculpture. Great man, terrific artist. And we have to thank PMFTC for, you might say, monumentalizing the man. Right? He certainly deserves it. And it's always been a wonder to me. In fact, Chris, why there was no book yet on
Never a book about Abueva.
Well, actually, to be fair, it was an idea from our people, actually, in the corporate affairs who was involved with the Philippine Arts Awards. And I remember I said meeting Abueva, and he was such a gentleman, but such knowledgeable, because we go to the Philippine Arts Awards, and I must be very honest, sometimes it's hard to understand, if I may be honest. You know, everyone has their own taste. That's the wonder about art, right?
True.
And sitting with someone like Abreva was very good because he would explain certain aspects, right?
Yes.
Which if you're not
Yes.
involved. And therefore it's very sad, of course, when he had his stroke, which obviously in some ways incapacitated him. It was great to honor him. It was a great evening. His son came, who is also a sculptor.
Lowen, yeah.
Of course, his wife was there. And I think it's very good because it kind of ties everything together which Philip Morris and PMFTC is involved with. We want to promote Philippine art, and Philippine art is not just about the art, it's about the people, and I think Abreva sums it up, being a national artist. And I think it was one of our greatest things to have a book for such a great guy.
Yes.
So,
I believe we have some stills of the rather glittering affair that was held to launch the book, with some important personages there.
This is last year.
Yes, I believe it was last year. Here's a group shot of, wait, which one is this?
this is the Arts Award.
Oh, this is the Arts Award, with which the book is related. Can we roll on to the rest? Oh, these are the Art Awards photographs. Oh,
Here it is.
this is a picture of the launch with the lady who has been behind the National Artist Awards at the start, right behind Billy Abueva. I think there are a few more pictures of. Oh, that's you with Johnny.
It is.
And is that Secretary Virata
Yeah.
beside you?
I think I've aged some more since then, actually.
This is also the
More
Arts
from the
Awards.
Art
Or I think
Awards.
this was at the launch, wasn't it? Yeah, this is also at the launch. You have another national artist right there, taller actually than Imelda, our friend Benkamp. Yeah, and here's another picture of the.
I got Sid Reyes.
Book launch. Yes, there is Sid Reyes, the foremost art critic in the country, and himself now an artist and a painter.
And then we managed actually to get Boeva to sign a number of the books, which is also
That's wonderful.
a nice
he's
touch.
a wonderful man. Yeah. With a very...
He is. You know, I have memories of myself being a child and my mom going to visit his studio. And he would be so accommodating, and he'd give us the tour. This is what I'm working on. This is what I've worked on.
And he's a very
I have
funny
very
man
fond
too. He
memories
has
of
this
him.
tongue-in-cheek humor. You know, you never quite know when he's pulling your leg.
Kind of like you.
In any case, apart from the Abueva book, which has been a highlight of your involvement with the Philippine Art Awards, that particular contest has been what actually inspires a lot of Filipino artists
Philippine Art Awards.
to devote a certain season of their lives or of the year to
Yes.
prepare for the contest, right?
Yes.
Can you explain more about this PAA, as we call it?
Sure, the Philippine Arts Awards is actually a long time now. It started in 1994. So obviously here we're now in 2012. So
On its 18th year.
Around
Yeah,
17, 18 years.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
we've had
really-
17. Yeah.
it's really done very well. I think the first thing that we look at is the diversity of Philippine art. Since I've been here over the last, obviously, 9 years, we've added new elements, sculptures, more contests. And what I find particularly interesting, actually, is you run into the artists sometimes in different occasions.
Yes.
And in all honesty, and maybe that's my age, I forget sometimes, to be candid, but they remember, and they say to me, I'm entering again. And my plan is to try and win. Or I won last time, but I was a jury's choice, I want to get the main prize. And I think what's also good about the way it's worked out, actually, just so you know, it started off actually as a regional event. We're one affiliate in obviously Asia for Philip Morris. Then actually the regional competition ended, and we decided to continue here in the Philippines because the Philippines has, in Asia, one of the most vibrant art scenes, right?
I agree.
And then we added another element to it because what we found was that it was quite focused, obviously, on Manila and Luzon, to be candid.
Okay.
So what we set up actually is regional contests, so Mindanao, Visayas, and we hold those, and then it comes together for one national competition. So, and then we hold the events in those regions. So I've been to Bacolod, Davao, and I think that also adds a new element to it because obviously the test is, do you get more artists? Do you see new things? And that is all kind of leading on, right?
Right.
So, yeah, we're very encouraged. It's because I think when you're involved with something for a long period of time, you've also got to keep it alive and keep changing.
Yes.
So it continues to thrive.
Okay, how do you go about, Chris, the selection of judges? It is a competition after all. Do you choose a different board of judges every year, or do you have a staple set of judges?
I think we try and do a mixture. I think the first thing is that we're not involved in the judging. And
right.
Thankfully, I'm not involved at all because I think that would be a disaster, for candidly.
He hands out the trophies.
I send out trophies.
You pose for the photo ops.
I do, because I would have a hard time. That's had to rely on people like Abueva or Benkamp to advise me what this is, because sometimes it's quite difficult, I must be honest.
Right, yes.
What we try to do is, I think we have some staple people. Sid Reyes, for example, has been there a long time. Patrick, I forget his name. Yes, has been there a long time. And then we had some new elements in there as well, right? And I think that's very important for two factors. I think that the judges have a good background, so the artists see there is integrity in the process, right?
Yes.
Secondly, it's nothing to do with Philip Morris. I mean, whoever they choose is the winner. We have no influence on the results. And I think it's also important, though, as well, while you try to have maybe sometimes another judge come in, I think it's important to have continuity. So having Sid, having Patrick, I think helps a lot because they know the developments. And also I think it's very good because when we do the awards on the night, for me, when they announce the winners, and it's a surprise to me as it is to them, is then they read what is the painting or the sculpture about, because sometimes it's not obvious, frankly.
Yes.
And I think it's very good when you have people who've got that experience and that skill. So, look, we're very blessed. They've worked hard, the judges, and I think that's why this contest has stayed 17 years, because you have credibility. And I think the artists can see that and know, if I enter, I'm judged as fairly as possible. Notwithstanding, art is in the eye of the beholder at the end of the day. It's not an exam, right?
Right, yes.
Tell.
So a total of how many judges would you say there are for every year?
Every year, I think we have between 5 to 6 judges. I think 6 if my memory is
and different panels, I believe, for the regional competitions.
You're correct.
But how exactly do the mechanics go? What time of the year do you announce the new set of the new?
Well, it varies. What we've tried to do is, excuse me, what we do is it's a 2-year program. So 1 year will be for the regional contests.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of work is involved also in terms of what is the criteria. Like we added sculpture. Do we add sort of a new dimensional art? Then, of course, we start to do the announcements. I think it's generally at the beginning of a year. We also have to tie up then for the following year, once you have the regional winners.
Okay.
The second year is when you do the national awards. So also we work with various groups. So for example, we have Lane or Asian Tigers is our shipping company. They've been with us for years because obviously you need somebody who knows how to pack and ship fairly large pieces of art.
Lane movers.
Yeah.
Okay.
To Manila because
right, yeah.
you know, the last thing you want, of course, is damage as well. So it's quite of an involved process. And I think the fun is going to regional areas because you can go to certain, I think we were in Iloilo, certainly in Bacolod. And it's also good to see those areas, right? So,
of course.
But the regional winners already receive quite handsome prizes, don't they? Yeah. Would you be at liberty to tell our audience exactly how much the artists tend to receive?
Well, I think it's varied, and we're going to be increasing again this year. I think the main prize nationally goes up to about 300,000 pesos, if I remember rightly. But I think for them, it's also then they enter the national competition.
Yes.
They also have a chance to go wherever we do the visit, which I think last year was Hong Kong, but we've also been to China.
Yes.
So we go to different, and look, I think probably also the value that you can't put on is obviously the recognition.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I actually enjoy talking to the artists after the awarding, right? And you say, well, do you have exhibitions? Are you still in college? Whatever. And also what's interesting when you discuss with them is how long do they take?
Yeah.
Some have done it in 1 month.
Yeah.
Some have done it in 6 months.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing. So I think the other value, just to conclude, is the name recognition and the publicity,
Yes.
which you can't put it on, but it's probably actually the most important element in some respects.
I believe we have another set of stills that will show some of the works of the artists that have won in the last year or two of the Philippine Art Awards, or as we call it, PAA.
PAA.
Yeah.
PAA.
Yeah. These are the winners. I believe these are already the national winners, or probably a mix of the regional winners. And those are the samples of the works that have figured prominently in the finals, the national finals. I've seen
So
one
many of these are
edition of this.
paintings.
Yes, well, as Chris has said, no, there is a painting category and there's multimedia or sculpture.
Right.
The different categories
They're
are
large,
awarded separately.
All this I believe this was a
Yes.
grand prize winner. I
Yes.
forget the name of the fellow, Valmente or something like that, Valmonte. This was wonderful. It's a diptych, as you can see.
Yes.
It's two canvases put together.
I think this is where they are in. I think this from Hong Kong.
How young,
This is the bonus,
Chris,
right?
how young are the participants of these awards? Do you have a cutoff?
No, we don't. I mean,
Would
they're
Crip
all.
be eligible to join?
Yeah, at my age, I can. Yeah.
I think we'd encourage Crip to take part. Actually,
I even get a discount, you know, a senior citizens discount in the application fee, I think. Although
Okay.
that's none at all.
and this is
We
where
go your
Braver
place
was also
tonight.
there, right?
Sketch my portrait.
Yeah, here is Billy Abueva attending one of the...
He still comes actually, which is great to see. I think when you see some of these artworks, I mean, I remember seeing one which was made of, if I recall correctly,
Monkey.
chicken feathers.
Yes,
Made
yes.
of
I
chicken.
said-
I've
Yes,
seen that.
yeah,
So I
that
actually
one
said to
2
him,
years ago. That was
How
the
many
grand prize.
chickens did it take?
Yeah.
I
But he-
interviewed that fellow, yes.
And it's quite amazing because when you look at something like that, it's not obvious. I mean, you have to go closer, right?
Right.
And then you try to think of how long it must have taken him to think about it. And obviously to build it up. I mean, did he get frustrated at certain times? Like, I'm never going to get enough chicken feathers, or to keep going? I mean, it's pretty
Chris,
amazing.
I was a judge in that year's contest, and I had
You
a
were?
conversation with this guy. It's incredible. He was from Mindanao, and he built that up, I think, somewhere in Iligan or Cagayan de Oro City. And his chicken feathers were coming from Bulacan or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a family up here, and he ran out of chicken feathers in his own locality. And so he asked his relatives here, who had a few chicken coops, you know, to send them the feathers. At first look, you don't know that it's chicken feathers.
I think it's not just that. You sometimes see, the materials they use, right? It's not so obvious, right? And obviously, if you're not an artist, it's a totally unique skill. I couldn't do it. So you think of the idea and where they got from, but also the effort and the time, and to keep it going, right? Because I'm sure at times they must think, it's not working, should I stop?
Yes, yes. Did you ever find out why he used that medium?
He got fascinated with it, with using mixed media, and he experimented with them. And he also said that it saved him the cost of having to buy paint. All those oils and acrylic in tubes. Really up from his bootstraps, actually. And Patrick was raving about that painting. I remember,
Yes.
and with reason. It was so Philippine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm afraid we've run out of time for the first half of our tonight's episode, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about other aspects of
More
PM,
corporate
FTC's
cultural
corporate
involvement
cultural
for you.
involvement.
Coming up with the second half of Illuminati
We'll
with
see you
Crip
in a while.
and Trix. We'll see you.
Hello, good evening.
Welcome back to the second half of Illuminati with Crip and Trix.
Trix has been trying to
I've been
browse
trying
through
to
this book.
browse through. I've been attempting to browse through it. It's pretty weighty. In fact, I'm considering picking up a copy of this and using it for my overhead lunges.
The Abueva book, published by PM, FTC, Inc.
FTC. Yeah.
The president
It's an
of which
amazing book.
company is with us tonight, talking about their corporate involvement in arts and culture in our
Because
country.
we are talking about corporate cultural involvement. So,
In the first half of our show, we've dealt mostly with the visual arts, actually. Well, Abueva being one of the finest
yes.
exemplars of Philippine
And then we were
visual
talking
arts.
about the PAA.
And then the Philippine Art
Pa.
Awards, which is on its second decade, almost completing its second decade. Philippine
Right.
Art Awards.
17 years.
Which used to be handled by the AAP, I believe, or they had some relationship with Art Association of the Philippines. For this half of our episode tonight, we move on to another aspect of Philippine creativity, and this is writing.
Something
Hello
you're very
again,
familiar
Chris.
with.
Hello again.
May we reintroduce our guest, Mr. Chris Nelson, President
Mr.
of
Chris Nelson.
PMFTC Inc.
Sir.
Chris is fine.
And another involvement that the company has with Philippine arts and culture is the Bright Leaf Awards. It's a relatively younger awards contest, younger than the PAA, but it has also established quite a name. I think the Bright Leaf Awards, which is for agriculture journalism, by the way, so this involves Filipino writers, especially journalists. I believe it's in its sixth year, is it already?
Yeah, we launched in 2007, so
Okay,
obviously
yeah,
next year will be 5.
sixth
But
year.
yes, we decided to get into that actually because, tobacco is grown here. It's a very important agricultural product, and yet we felt that it wasn't getting enough coverage. And we thought we wanted to start a series of awards to encourage journalists and writers. But also wanted to broaden it, so it's not solely on tobacco, it's agricultural stories, it's also the best tobacco story. We also have the best pictures.
Yes.
So you have
Photojournalism?
photos.
Yes, there is photos.
So it's really, we're very pleased with it because for us in terms of measuring, of course, it looks at entries. The entries have gone up. We've continued it and we've seen more interest. Some of the pictures are quite stunning. Sometimes you can't recognize the place, right, because the guy's taking it. And I think also the stories have covered a different facet, right? And again, I think in just relating it back to the PAA in your question, we've also managed to get some very good judges. Again, we don't judge the stories, we don't judge the pictures. And we've really gone out to the academia to get, deans and also government agencies, the plant, whichever agricultural department. And I think that's added a lot of credit and credence to this whole process.
There are several categories for these awards, right,
Sure.
Chris?
Could
we
you
go through
possibly
them?
run
I
us
remember
down
reportage,
categories?
simple reports, features.
Yeah, we do features, reports. There's obviously the top award. We also have the picture awards, about top tobacco story. We have different features. We also, I think, do, if I'm not mistaken, not just the print side, but a feature or a series of articles. We have one award, which I think that is released if you get 3 awards in a row, which we call the Oriental Leaf Award.
Yes. Sort of like a Hall of Fame award.
That was won by somebody because he had 3 consecutive awards, so 3 years running.
Well, the legendary Zach Sarian, for instance, he is the byword, he is the name when it comes to agricultural writing, right? For the last few decades. I think he was the first guy to win that Oriental Leaf award.
Oriental.
And what I've noticed as well actually is that, and also the judges can be quite tough. I think last year, if I recall correctly, and I can't remember the specific category, but essentially they said, no, we don't think the entries are good enough, so we're not going to give any award.
For that particular category.
So we have to honor that, and I think that adds to getting the quality up, actually.
Right.
But
Yes.
we're very pleased with it because you know, for us, agriculture, and I think it's an important factor. If you look at it, and if I have to bring it into a business context, if I may, agriculture is and should be very important to the Philippines.
Of course.
And many countries tend to look at agriculture because they become industrialized, but the focus here should be agriculture. And if you can go that in the news as well, so that people have this recurring interest, not just in my interest area, which of course is tobacco, but in general, I think that goes a long way. And we're pleased to see also the support, obviously, from the government. I think last year we had Senator Panalina.
Yes.
Because he heads for the Senate the Agricultural Committee.
Yes.
Obviously, we've had the National Tobacco Administration, we've had people from the Department of Agriculture. So, and I think the other thing, I'd link it again to the PA in one respect. While it is much younger, it still is 5 years. And I think the longer we go on, you establish that history, and then people will want to continue with it. And that's another important factor.
Some of the articles that have won awards, I can say, would also fall on the realm of scientific writing. Very, very interesting stuff about biomass production or some appropriate technology stuff conducted in some small localities in Mindanao.
Would you say it's more of the content is more technical than creative?
Yes, quite, and also very creative. Yeah, very
creative at the
like
same
organic
time.
farming or something. Like in the city, I remember one winning piece about organic farming in the city, how to use recyclable bottles, etc., etc. How to produce organic fertilizer. A lot of it is science. Oh, by the way, I think we have another set of stills showing the prize-giving ceremonies for the winners of the Bright Leaf Awards for Agriculture Journalism. You did mention Senator Pangilinan. Yeah, I believe that's him during the awards night, Kiko Pangilinan. This was the 5th Bright Leaf awardees. And they also enjoy a certain bonus or gravy. It's one of the prize-winning photographs. The general category for agriculture. Well, this is the top tobacco photo of the year. See how it looks almost like an abstract painting. Right?
Exactly.
Teddy Molina of our newspaper, the Philippine Star, I believe he won the Photograph of the Year award then. And I know that the writers who enter these contests or who are nominated by their editors all look forward to this event when they're given recognition. So much so that I recall our editor in the Philippine Star was there during the awards night a year or two ago.
Was.
Yes, and she was very, very proud of the boys. Now this is the bonus part, the gravy part.
What is this?
Kuala Lumpur Tower, I think.
It was
Chris
a
in the middle.
revolving restaurant,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So the Petronas Towers were moving around this. The winners also look forward to this because they're taken on a tour of a Southeast Asian city where there is some focus on agriculture.
Yeah, this was from Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, this is
If I remember right.
Saigon, yeah. The War Museum. And this is one of the cheaper places in Saigon where we were having a meal.
What is this?
The Mekong River, or one of the tributaries to the Mekong River, I think. Yeah. It's local immersion. I think that ends the set of...
It's been
any other possibilities for expansion for the Bright Leaf Awards? You were saying this is a pretty young contest.
It is a young contest. I think that what we want to see is that for me, it's actually getting more and more entries. I think that also, as you rightly said, I think the journalists look forward to it. I think they also look forward to it because also they have their peers there.
Yes.
And to be honored amongst your peers is probably the greatest thing, right?
Right.
I think that what we'd like to see is an increase in entries, which is happening. I think also some of the pictures are really very stunning. I think some of the stories you mentioned are very interesting, right? I mean, they don't maybe seem interesting when you first see the title, if you understand my point. It may not grab you by biomass, or
Yes.
I think one was on sheep, particular aspect of sheep or lambs.
But chicken shit for the soul or something.
But of course, it also depends on how well they write it. And I think also it's our continuing involvement with key government figures, whether it's Senator Panalina or other people, because, you know, if I just branch off, I mean, the tobacco industry is still growing here. And if we can get improvements and if we can get recognition from developments there, and that also helps in other agriculture, then I think there's a lot of bonus from this. Because, you know, having been involved, as I said, in 9 years here, there's a lot of opportunities for agriculture. At the same time, there's a lot of frankly, barriers to overcome.
Yes.
Infrastructure, irrigation, which we can see. So I'm a firm believer in this story, actually, in this competition, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to expand it to get more people, right? And I particularly like it, as you rightly said, when you get the editors taking pride.
Yes.
Because that pushes them to demand better stories, which then pushes the journalist, and it's what they say, a virtuous cycle.
Yes, yes. Also because there's a special flavor to agricultural journalism. Like I said earlier, it's really akin to science writing, which means the writers don't write off the top of their heads. It's not column, it's not opinion. They do research. They actually have to have factual items within the story. They interview the subject, the scientists behind a certain way of gardening or producing something. It's not, even the feature stories are well written in that sense, because obviously they did their homework, you know, and it's very informative. It's not creative writing. It's not fiction.
It's like if you'd say the awardee that was featured was Teddy Molina.
Yes.
Yeah, Teddy Molina is very well known. I've actually, because when I've gone out to the various areas such as Ilocos or Isabela, different places, because I visit where as we grow, I've met Teddy Molina in some of these areas. So you actually see him going around talking to the farmers, seeing people, right, getting certain facts and developments. So I totally concur with that point. I mean, it's a question of researching and then putting it in a way where, frankly, people who might not be that interested would read it. That's really the criteria. Or taking the picture in a way which you'd say, wow, that's stunning, right? I must admit, my favorite is probably, I have to be honest, is the photographs, maybe more than the art. But when you see some of these pictures, you wonder how long he had to wait to just capture that moment, huh?
Yeah.
Come to think of it, Chris, especially now that you mention it, might we be looking forward to, well, in the future, a compilation of the winning pieces in this Bright Leaf contest, as well as the photographs?
I think that's a possibility. Of course, we don't have a central figure like we have with the Bueva. But I think we would always look at sometimes our own, doing a coffee book or coffee table as we call them, right? Because some of the pictures in particular could stand out, right? And yes, I think it would be a good idea, actually.
It can be a decades anthology, right? I mean, when you reach...
We just got another 5 years to go, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, correct.
3 or 4.
And if I'm still here, that's what, 13, 14 years?
Just like the Philippine Art Awards as well, you know, can also be, the winners can also be compiled into a wonderful art book. Yeah.
That's a nice idea. Because
push through.
I think one of the points I just looked to say is I think the reason, certainly from my perspective, with the Philippine Arts Awards and now the Bright Leaf, is you've got to keep it alive. You know, I think there's probably a lot of examples of competitions which lasted for 1 year or 2 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you've got to keep it alive, and I think you have to set certain key parameters. And I think you've asked in those areas. The judges, I think, are very important.
Yes.
They are well known, respected, and we as the corporate backers are not involved in that. We don't judge it, we just assist, so we're not involved in that. And I think that makes a big difference. And then encouraging more people to take part. The more entries you have, the greater the competition, whether it's in the art or in the journalist award or the photojournalist, creates quality. I mean, it breeds better work. And I think that's what keeps both going.
In a sense, they both become institutionalized, so we can say. Both the Philippine Art Awards, which are a dozen years ahead of the Brightleaf, but the Brightleaf Awards for agricultural journalism, I say, it's already well on its way to being institutionalized. So
Yes.
that some writers, I've heard, actually try to have themselves assigned to the agriculture section just so they can give it a try. They prefer that than metropolitan crime or something.
When do these awards take place? I mean,
Well, it
have
varies
our Brightleaf
actually. Yeah,
and our Philippine Art Awards.
Well, if I take the awards for the Brightleaf, generally, if I remember rightly, it should be coming up. It's generally towards the end of the year. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably around the November time. I mean, it can vary.
Yes.
I know that because of the traffic, depending where we are, right? You can judge
Yes,
yourself.
yeah.
We also have to pick a time because the Brightleaf Awards, we have to time it obviously when the journalists can be there because they're constantly writing stories.
Of course.
The PAA takes place, and the awarding is generally more at the beginning of the year, although obviously the work has obviously progressed before.
Yes.
And then that's also got to link into when is the award, right?
Right.
So, for example, there was a picture shown on the Brightleaf, which was in, I think we were there in May in Kuala Lumpur. And obviously the awarding of those people had taken place the previous year. Likewise, we do the Philippine Arts Awards. We have to look at also what events are there. We try and vary it as well. We went to Shanghai. We've been to Hong Kong. We've been to Thailand. So it also depends on linking up the timings as well, right?
Right.
So sometimes actually, I must be very honest, I forget that when the awardees are, because if you know, imagine like 6 months later you actually take the award, right? But it's a continuous cycle. So I think we've got the next one coming up, must be Brightleaf.
Yes, towards November.
How involved are you, Chris? I mean, I know you made it clear you're not involved in the judging process, but yeah, when it comes to that time of the year for Brightleaf or that time of the year for the Philippine Art Awards, how in demand are you?
Well, look, I try and make it that I go to the events. Sometimes it's difficult because I could be traveling in. Sometimes, of course, it depends, where we have them. We do it in the National Museum, so that's down on Rojas Boulevard or off for the PAA. Look, I always like to attend. I always like to be able to say a few words. And to be honest with you, the PAA, I always like to meet the artists because I think that's fun. And I think it's good to ask them to explain what is theirs about.
Yes.
And on the journalist side, I think it's also good to see them because some like Teddy I know. And I think it's also good to see the editors because I think you can see the enthusiasm. So I must be very honest. I have no credit for the organization of these things, right? I'm simply show up to give the awards and say the thing. But I enjoy the nights.
He also is known to deliver a very inspirational speech for the evening.
Well, you're very kind. I'm sure, maybe not the artists or the people might say that, but you're very kind.
Yeah, it sets the tone, like I remember the last Brightleaf Awards, that even Senator Kiko Pangilinan was all ears with what you were saying about how agriculture really should really enjoy a stronger focus in our media.
Yeah, look, I think that if I can't be involved, which I cannot be in terms of the organization, we have people to do that. We have also third parties. I do think it's very important to be there for the awarding. And I think it's important to meet the awardees and also to thank the judges. I can't stress enough, I think the quality of both competitions for me is very much founded on the judges. People like Abreu when he was helping, or Sid Reyes, or Patrick Flores. I mean, and on the other side we have the dean from Los Baños School of Agriculture. I think that really cements these competitions, and they spend an awful lot of time, and I think they agonize over their decisions, and it cannot be easy.
Sure.
So I think
I can imagine.
they deserve to be thanked because they really do. For me, they're the key role.
Okay, if we're running out of time, actually, we
I
have
think
a little less than 3 minutes to go. If there are artists out there who are interested in joining or entering these competitions, can you give us a website or a source from which they can...
Sure, I think it's well known, but there is a website which is under the PAA, and you can go on and check it. We also contact various institutions which have run it in the different regions. To be honest with you, I think the single biggest way is word of mouth.
Yes.
And
the painters themselves. Yeah.
So
I mean, I've been to a different company's art awards, and I was there, and one of the artists rushed over and said, "Sir, do you remember me?" And of course I said yes, right? And he said, "I got into the, I didn't win the main prize, but I'm entering again." And I think that, for me, particularly for both of the competitions, is really where you get your strength from. It's artists talking to each other.
That's right.
Hey, you can do this. And also seeing the results, the exhibitions, what they get from it. And on the Bright Leaf side, it's of course the editors pushing. It's the journalists also saying, you know, and that breathes the area. So, look, there are areas for people to enter, but I think honestly, the word of mouth is always the strongest pull.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's something like the Palanca Awards for literature, you might say, which has of course enjoyed several decades. The young writers always have it as a goal to win a Palanca.
Yes, yes.
And every year they try to enter. Yeah. And even the
September.
old people like me, I mean, there are 60-year-olds that still join the Palanca, you know, even if they've won twice or thrice already. There's no stipulation, Chris, right, against a former winner joining again. Right?
Not at all. In fact, we've had multiple winners in the sense of somebody who ran before and wins again. They may win one year the jury's choice, next one they may get the grand prize. And there is nothing to prevent that.
Yes.
In fact, you actually see, particularly in the PAA, the same different people, but also the same people entering and doing well. And that's also good, because it doesn't mean you say, okay, I've won it once, I don't need to take part. That means they want to keep on taking part. And
that's part of the institutionalization.
It is, and I think it comes back to the key word, because at the end of the day, it is a competition, however you judge it. And I think that competition stays vibrant and alive by having more entries. And while you want new entries, you also want the people who've won it, who've set the standard, to also be there, and maybe be pushed as well.
Yeah. Well said, Chris. I'm afraid we've run out of time, Drex. Once again, you have the honor, the privilege to
We always seem to have
say
too little
goodbye
time
to
when
our-
our guest is as wonderful and inspiring as Chris has been. So thank you once again,
Well, thank
Mr.
you.
Chris Nelson, for joining us. Thank you, Crep, for being my
Thank
dashing
you,
co-host as
Trix.
always. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in once again to Illuminati, wherein we hope to continue inspiring you with matters that deal with art and culture. So
We'll
tune
see
in
you
again
again next week.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.